Everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming. It's Thursday, so that means it is time for another Outriders Thursday news update. Now, today's update, while it may not be gigantic as far as groundbreaking details, it is talking about something very, very important that I want to go over with you guys and also discuss because it's going to have a very, very big impact on the future of Outriders and how you're going to be able to enjoy this game. So let's go ahead and jump right into things. Remember, timestamps in the description below. And if you want to interact with me, make sure to check me out on my streams at twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming Stream to interact with me on Outriders and also some of the other games that I am covering. All right, with that being said, let's look into the big note for today, which is going to be for July 1st, 2021. Big emphasis here is their update on balancing. We're currently looking to buff a few skills for all four classes. Notice they are not, even though this is called balancing, and most people, that word is a dangerous word because balancing and many other games just scream nerfs. But what I'm loving is that they've kind of gone away from nerfing, and this is specific saying buffing a few skills for all four classes, okay? Which gives me hope. Some of these changes will require bespoke codework, though, as the changes are not just their numbers, but also to the way that they function. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to be talking about some skills in particular in a moment, and I will be so happy if they make these changes. Again, coming up in just a minute. So to that end, we will likely roll these balancing changes into one of our upcoming patches. We're aiming to buff each class in unison and are avoiding split buffing, which is why we need a bit more time to bundle these changes collectively for a patch. Now, patch news. Our next patch requires a little more time for us to ensure its stability, especially following the past week's successful patch, which they did a wonderful job of. We are in the testing phase currently. We'll have more information to share on this soon. Thank you for your patience on this. I've been dead on accurate, fortunately, with my timing predictions. I think they're going to give us an update on Tuesday, and I think this particular patch you're talking about is going to come out this next Thursday. However, when it's predicting these skills, I would be shocked if the skill balance, even though I wish it would happen, I think it will take just everything going right for it to come out next Thursday. I think optimistically, we're talking the following Tuesday, or if things are taking a little longer, the following Thursday. So we're talking about from today, week, maybe maximum 2 weeks, minimum, week and a half kind of thing. But this stuff I think is coming soon. Now, before I discuss with you guys the skills, because I want to see what your thoughts are and whether you feel that your favorite skills are going to get buffed or not, versus what I'm going to mention as I feel from my experience playing all the classes, leveling all of them up, and creating builds for all of them. I have my thoughts, what I think needs to get buffed. Want to see if you guys agree. Now let's take a quick look at the list of known issues, if there's anything that has been updated. So again, the things that they're highlighting here, certain mods still not working, in particular when you're in the client during multiplayer sessions. Scrap grenade mod may stop working after cutscenes. That's still a big one. Players dying while shield is active. That is still big there. So let's see here. Other ones that they're looking at. Trickster hunt. The prey does not turn player around. That is the same. Venerator enough may target a wrong enemy. So that's kind of interesting. What that means by a wrong enemy. Does it mean an extra enemy when it's coming back? Certain mods, I'm not sure. Let's see here. Devastator's Grav Elite mod may apply status effects inconsistently. Okay, that's good to know. Devastator's skill may have inconsistent damage output, particularly when using Bleed and Moaning Wind combo. Yes. Now, I don't know if this is inconsistent, meaning not as much as they should, or too much. I don't know. So got to be careful of this wording. This may be a buff, or maybe it may end up being a nerf or fix to a bug. The Devastator status set bonus may end after 8 seconds. I don't even know if this is working correctly. Doesn't seem to do as much as it should. I'd be curious to see about the calculations. This is the big one for me. Technomancer Borealis set bonus may not apply properly. Yeah, it does not apply at least half the times. Devastator Blood Donation class node may not work without any skill life leech stat boost from other gear or nodes. I want to re-emphasize what this means. There is the Blood Donation class node makes it so that you heal 35 or 25%, I believe now, of all the healing based off of the bleed damage. And it's supposed to work just baseline, but right now, if you don't have skill life leech, you will heal nothing. So you need to make sure you have at least one piece of a weapon or a piece of armor that has, or a skill node that gives you at least 1% or more. And I think 3 or 4% is the lowest you can have on a piece of loot of skill life leech, and then this will work. But if you don't, that's going to be a problem. Let me see. Damage block. This is damage block stat. Expedition results occasionally appearing inconsistent or abnormal low. This is all visual. Does not make any real change. This is just not showing the right numbers. And dismantle may not show proper preview. To be honest, I haven't even noticed that. It rarely works. And then again, I don't really have even looked at it in a very, very long time. And then we're talking about Broodmother's AoE, Surge Attack, VFX are very hard to see. So that's a visual thing, but obviously since those are some hard-hitting attacks, hopefully to fix it. So nothing new from last week. So now what I want to talk to you guys about is what skills I believe on my characters, on the characters need to be changed. So let's see if we agree. All right, so I'm going to start looking at my Devastator. And this is so very, very clear. So I feel like Earthquake is in a really good place, especially with the Seismic Commander set. Scales really well, does the good damage, interrupts, etc. Golem is just fine. Gravity Leap is amazing, not only from functionality, does good, really good damage. I think it's a nice cooldown, great mod integration, etc. Reflect Bullets also highly effective, especially if you use the modifications that allow you to move while casting it. Very specific to the build you use, but when you use it, I find it's very, very good. Impale is really, really good. On my Nature's Fury build, you can check that out on our channel. This thing does ridiculous damage across multiple enemies. It's top damage on the build. It's amazing. And that's where the good news ends. Tremor is utter trash. I have tried to make a build with Tremor, and no matter what you do, the percentage AP scaling is so trash. It is impossible to make this good. The functionality is fine. Maybe add an extra tick baseline, so you don't need to. There's a mod that gives it 1 extra tick and a mod that gives you 2 ticks. That's like legendary tier 3. To add 3 ticks, 2 mods, that's horrible return on investment. They don't do enough damage per tick. It's just, this needs either a rework, but honestly, just buff the damage about tenfold and they'll be okay. Boulder Dash, man, I have a build that I created all around this ability. This, I think, is what they mean by a rework. Targeting this is impossibly difficult. The damage isn't quite enough. It feels clunky. I feel like it should be so much more impactful. Basically, I find that Gravity Leap is much, much more effective, and you have better control, and you can go up and down. You can go up levels. You can go beyond, you can go over obstacles. You're invincible while you're in the air, pretty much. And then Boulder Dash, you're limited. It's hard to target. You don't go as far. It actually has a longer cooldown. None of this makes sense. Boulder Dash should just be, since it's less versatile than Gravity Leap, I feel like this needs to be way more powerful damage potential wise than Gravity Leap. So don't nerf Gravity Leap, buff the bejesus, maybe even change the targeting element, like it homes in on enemies. I don't know. That's up to them to decide. But the Boulder Dash needs a redesign or a major damage buff. I want to be able to have a fun Juggernaut build around this. And then Endless Mass. I feel like when this was like bugged, it was effective. The damage on this is bad. Their AoE radius needs to be bigger. The cooldown is way, way too long. Like if you look at the video here recording, if you see what the radius, it's just not good. And I know you can use mods to to improve it, etc. Maybe have the enemies stick together longer so you can actually, while they're bunched up, help out. I have an issue that it actually turns an enemy into that little stone and an enemy is immune to damage, which is actually an annoyance because like I'll be playing in multiplayer, I'll try and beat down on that enemy and like I'm literally beating down on it and now it becomes immune to damage. It seems detrimental. So I think they should still be able to take damage while they're in that form. And it just, that explosion needs to scale way better. I mean, right here, based on my current AP, 24,000 damage is absolutely nothing. To give you perspective, you know, obviously the damage of the base damage of Gravity Leap is 131,000. So we're talking about 5 to 6 times more powerful. So Endless Mass, cool concept, needs to be more effective. Again, it's got a long cooldown. Anything that's got a longer cooldown needs to be better. It needs to be more impactful. And it doesn't feel impactful enough, in my opinion. So those are my recommendations and thoughts on the Devastator. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. Now let's go ahead and look at the next class. All right, let's look at the Trickster. So first of all, let's talk about, start with Temporal Blade. Temporal Blade feels really, really good when you have it with the proper set. So when you have the 3-piece bonus for Edge of Time, 100% extra damage feels really good, especially when you get double slice on there. And recently they buffed the damage on Strong Slice, went from like 60,000 a max level to 90-some thousand, almost 100,000. This feels good. Very, very good skill. Really good scaling percentage-wise on AP. It's just a really well done talent. Slow Trap. This is not a DPS talent. It's cool. I don't see any end game builds really utilizing it, unfortunately. Long cooldown. Thematically, it's pretty cool, but for like speed killing, it just, it doesn't find a place. It takes up a deception slot, and I have found that most people will use Venerator's Knives, for example, more often, or they're going to use, well, actually, you don't see time. We'll talk about Time Rift in a second. But I mainly see Venerator's Knife a little bit more popular than this, but thematically, it's cool. So it probably doesn't need changes. Hunt the Prey. We already know that it has the facing issues. As a movement ability, I like it's a fast cooldown. It's great for positioning. It feels really, really good. I know they tried to buff the mod that adds damage to the end of it. I don't feel it's enough on an AP build to be significant enough. But again, this doesn't really need a change because it's mainly a movement ability, and you're also going to use it to proc things from your skill tree. Twisted Rounds is great. There's different ways of using it. You know, it can up your firepower a good amount. You can have it. It's got some really, really good overall mods. No complaints about this. Cyclone Slice. The actual percentage AP scaling on this is horrible. It's very clunky to control. It looks really cool. It plays really bad. Its damage is really bad, even when you buff it up. Now you can be invincible while you do it, but in actual theoretical, not actual practical, pragmatic practice, at CT15, it's not good enough. Now there's a danger. If you buff it too much, it's going to make Temporal Blade be negated. To give you an, if you look at just my base damage before anything else, this does 240,000 roughly. This does, you know, per tick 16K. I hit with Temporal Blade for in the millions. If I stack my buffs a certain way that aren't maybe not optimal for over DPS, but overall stack for Temporal Blade, I've had this hit for like 8-10 million. That's crazy numbers. You're never going to see that number of Cyclone Strikes. So if they want this to be viable, this needs to be buffed. I don't know if they can recode it to be less cumbersome on the movement. Like if you can more precisely move it, that would be big, but we'll see. Borrowed Time, just great buff. I mean, does anybody actually use this for the teleport? Or am I the only one that just uses it for a 28-second buff that makes you either invincible, with like super huge armor, huge buffs? That's how I use it personally. I never use it to teleport back. But it's a cool, basically, buff shield skill. I don't think that's what it was intended to do, but that's how I use it. Venerator's Knife. I wish there was a way to make this a DPS skill. It's just not. It's a debuff that gives you that mark that the next source of damage is 100% damage more. That's how you use it. Yet they have all these mods that increase its base damage, make it attack multiple targets, make it go there and back. It sounds like they want it to be a viable competitive attack. It's just nowhere near there. I've tried to make it work. It pales in comparison. And the problem is all these abilities work off a certain percent of AP scaling. I believe Temporal Blade's like 87 or 90%. I forget what it is. Venerator's Knife's like 9% or something. It's never going to be able to scale, no matter how high your AP is. So they would have to scale it. The problem is it also does slowing, and it does that mark. It does, it's got really good tracking as overall of how many targets it hits. So how do you make this better for DPS without it being overpowered? I don't know. But I would like to see if you combo it with its unique set to be able to make it a viable, AP DPS element as on my personal wish list. Then we have Time Rift. This is, I feel like a meme ability. CC, there's not a single time where I say, okay, for Deception, I want Time Rift instead of Venerator's Knife. I just don't see it. Mods are okay, but just I haven't been able to figure out a build that would want this. There's better alternatives. So I don't know what the solution for this is. This may have that niche of that if, maybe somebody makes an interesting build around it. It's because it doesn't innately do any damage. You have to invest, mods to make it decent. It's a 9.6 second cooldown, but it, has a 3-second effect. I don't know. I'd like to find more ways to make this useful, but again, this might just end up being a utility ability. With that being said, the tool set's not bad. Just some of the abilities could use a DPS buff. Namely, we're talking about Cyclone Strike and Venerator's Knife. All right, now let's move on to the next one. Okay, Pyromancer. So the Pyromancer is interesting. In the last couple of weeks or so, you may or may not have seen a lot of the kind of overpowered builds for the Pyromancer. Unfortunately, they were based off glitches and some overpowered stacking that wasn't really intended. With that being said, even with some of those glitches already being fixed and the other ones bound to be fixed, this class has some great set bonuses that give you a lot of variety. So let's take a look at the skills. Heatwave, needless to say, while baseline, it's not the most powerful ability. The fact that it interacts with some mods that increase your AP to an insane level, and the fact that you can get this to cast multiple times makes this really, really effective. Baseline, it's nothing to, go home about. But again, just the mods are so good for this that it makes the skills, it's kind of dangerous. If you get this to scale any higher baseline, it's going to be ridiculously broken. So I don't see them changing this much. Feed the Flames. This is underwhelming for me, personally. Yes, you can get mods that make it so it targets numerous enemies, increases the damage or healing some. But as a 10-second cooldown, the base damage is really low. It kind of, outside of, if you need like a relatively quick, I guess, not really that quick actually, ability that's an immobilize to proc a stat, you might like this. I know there's a mod that helps you refresh ammo, so you may use it for that. But I don't know. I don't know the solution of this because it's supposed to heal and damage. So like a life tap, kind of vampiric effect. So they probably want to limit how much damage it does. But just not a huge fan of it. Thermal Bomb looks amazing. Amazing skill. Just obviously has a godly mod that you can currently double stack. I'm assuming it's intended where you can get up to 80% extra all damage source. So you can use this on firepower builds, AP builds. So really, plus when the enemies blow up, it's, it does do AoE damage. But again, I feel like the main utility for this is some of the mods that impact it. As far as its actual effectiveness as a pure ability, it's okay. It's pretty good. But again, unlike some of the other classes that have decent or abilities that just don't have great DPS mods, this one does. So no matter what, they probably don't have to mess with this because people will pick it up just for the for the mods that increase all damage taken by enemies. Overheat. This has some interesting synergies. Obviously, as you can kind of see, when enemies are afflicted with burn, they take, when you cast this, it does a bunch more damage. Now, this build I am on right now, by the way, is I'm testing a firepower build. So you notice these numbers are much lower probably than if you were to be on a AP build. I want to know from other players that use this, what your thoughts are on this. The fact that it's got such a huge AoE is probably a big strong suit for this. And it is an explosive type, so you can scale it decently well. And obviously AoE interrupts are kind of nice as well. So yeah, me personally, it's got its niche. Would love to hear from some pyro mains because I am not a pyro main. Your thoughts on this in the comments. Volcanic rounds. This is cool. It's blighted rounds. I feel like superior to this, but putting burn on enemies, this is actually, I'm working on how to implement this effectively in a firepower build to optimize this. It's interesting because there's a great mod for this that increases your weapon damage by 50% once this goes on cooldown. But at the same time, a lot of people try and keep this mod up 24/7. So those are counterintuitive. So I don't know. I like the general theme of this and its flexibility. I may not be currently getting the most out of it, and that's probably a me problem. But it's nice having an ability that again spreads a nice strong dot, and that can go through multiple enemies if you can get some powerful bullets. Next, we have Ash Blast. Obviously, this is great for any build that wants to absorb Ash. AoE stun. It's very similar to a similar AoE stun AoE CC ability that the Technomancer has. So it's good. It doesn't baseline do damage, but it's a great CC ability. Phaser Beam. Phaser Beam used to be junk. Now it scales way better. I have not personally finished my phaser build yet, but the scaling off status power is way better, as good scaling off AP. Obviously, the fact that, it's meant to take down single difficult targets. This is just thematically cool. I don't think it really needs that much help. Eruption. This is such a cool ability, but good lord, is the cooldown so long on this ability. Yes, there's a set around it. I feel like if this ability had a cooldown that was just a little lower, it'd be so much more enjoyable. It's not even about doing more damage. It's just being able to use it more often. I think the key is of this. So again, right now I have some cooldown on this and it's a 26%, 26 second. If this at this point was 20 seconds, you can get it down to maybe like a 10-second cooldown when it's, min-maxed and fully built, so you can make it the core of a build. This would be awesome. But overall, the Pyro's issues really aren't these abilities. I find it's just very hard to build for firepower with them. But then again, I feel like this is the closest to like a mage character that really relies on AP builds. So that might be okay. But let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Do you feel like any of these need to be buffed? Are they underwhelming? Or do you think they're in a pretty good place compared to the other classes? Now let's take a look at the next class. All right. Finally, we have my beloved Technomancer. My main class, I've been working on other characters lately, so I haven't played as much as I want. But I have a lot of thoughts on this because I love this class. Let's start all the way to the left. Scrapnel. I think Scrapnel is in a really good place. If you go for the set, it's got amazing mods. It's got a phenomenal 3-set bonus. If you haven't checked out my 2 different explosion builds, the rocket launcher edition or just the baseline explosions build, check it out under my build section playlist. It is So much fun. Baseline, it's not that great, but considering you can make it so you can use this 6 times before a cooldown, that is how you min max skill using modifications. So good. Uh, I think it has some issues because if you throw it at enemies, like sometimes from the set bonus that's supposed to spawn extra mines doesn't proc. So you almost need to throw it on the ground, make sure it hits the ground, and then it blows up. So if you throw it like into enemies, you don't always get the full DPS. I don't know if they fixed that yet, but I know that was an issue when I was playing it a couple weeks ago. So that's my only complaint on that. Cryo turrets. Love it. Baseline, it can be used either as a distraction, it can be used to be like a heal over time, or you can build, as with my Terminator build, you can build a legit high DPS, high survivability turret build. It feels really, really good. It can't compete with some of the highest end builds, like the Blade Around builds. I wouldn't mind this base damage to go up a little bit, and or some of those mods that increase it a little bit higher, just so you can really go and take that turret build to that next level. But I won't complain if they don't buff this. Pain Launcher, this needs a buff. It needs a dramatic change. I made my most interesting build in the world that revolves kind of around this. I can get this cooldown down to 10 seconds. Okay, so I can get this spammable, but the damage is just never quite enough. It's hard to target. You can straight up miss things, even if you do the widened stance, the where there's a wider firing range, and the extra rockets. It's just not good bang for your buck. I hate to say it. It's a really cool kind of like a cool for fun skill, but not a min max skill. I'd be shocked if they don't buff this. It needs to do just a lot more damage if it's supposed to be a long cooldown baseline ability. Lighter rounds, it's amazing. It's super powerful. You can use a tier 3 mod to just make this broken, and you can do 100% of all damage. It's just really, really good. As long as they don't nerf it. I mean, this doesn't need any buffs. It basically is the reason why you can have a firepower build at all on a Technomancer. It's godly. You know that already, though. Next, Tool of Destruction. They recently buffed rocket launcher form, and it feels really, really good. Minigun, because the key mods that people use for it got nerfed, doesn't feel as good. The fact that you can run around with the missile launcher, you can roll with it, you have no limited mobility. There's no downside to use rocket launcher. The second you bust out the Gatling gun, I know it's thematic to move slow because of this giant Gatling gun, but it feels absolutely horrible with that slow movement. And it's just it's like controlling a sea cow, it feels like. So they need to figure out, how powerful they want to make this. Because yes, before you were able to make it so powerful because of the buggy mod that it broke the DPS. So I don't think it can approach that DPS. And I think most people, unless it gets close to that, probably won't be happy using it. But they got to find some balance, because right now I see very little reason to ever use this over the missile launcher. Fixing Wave. Does anybody ever really take this? This is horrible. Even when it used to be 33% healing. Now it's 66. Awesome. This is not going to save you. It's a 22-second cooldown. Even at my current cooldown level, it can be even worse. You need continual healing through healing over time effects. So weapon percentage damage, skill leech damage. That's what heals most people in the end game. Not some once in a while 66% heal. This needs like a full redesign. Maybe emphasize long-term buffs on the party, and modify some of those mods to make him even better. I don't know, but I have never put this on any of my builds. This is like a meme ability, in my opinion. It's junk. It needs a lot of help. Cold Snap. It's amazing. It's a long cooldown. You can get it down lower. It's got some really good mod synergies with the Borealis Monarch kind of mods and sets. It's nice. It does its job. I don't buy into the different mods that make you do extra damage to them. It doesn't scale well. Trying to turn this into a DPS building mod, except for the fact that it synergizes really well with freezing stuff, and then you doing more damage to things that are frozen. That part is fine. but I feel like the mods that will say, oh, anything that's frozen takes an extra 50,000 damage. That's not much when they get hit. So there's too many situational mods for this. So baseline is really good though, but the mods seem like a waste. And then finally, we have blighted turrets. Similar to the frost turret, the cryo turrets. This actually, it has a really fast cooldown time, really fast compared to the cryo one. Like we're talking about like 4 times faster, a quarter of the time. So this has kind of like an AoE spray. I like a lot of the versatility. I love the mod that turns this into frost damage. Its damage could be buffed some, but the reality is it's got such a fast cooldown. I more feel like cryo turrets with a long cooldown needs to have a higher base damage, even though it's so versatile with its range attack. And again, it would be very nice to where you could just have a turret build that is a little bit more competitive with blighted rounds. Because again, you can, if you perfectly min-max it, like with my Terminator build, be very, very good, but still doesn't hold a candle to blighted rounds. And it would be nice to have a real summoner build. So again, do I expect this to get buffed? No. I expect changes to minigun. I expect changes to fixing wave and definitely to pain launcher. But would I like to see changes to those? I would. Now, those are my thoughts on Technomancer. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the description below. Would love to hear your feedback, and we'll see if we're right in a week or two. So that's the notes for and the talking points for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, remember, check me out on twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming Stream if you want to come in, get some CT15 runs, or if you haven't gotten your EOTS gold clear yet, we provide those for people as well. And check out the Leeroy Gaming Discord if you want a nice, positive, focused community. That being said, thank you guys. Remember to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff if you want to support my channel. Greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.